You probably can't just take your existing application and port it over because there's so much rethinking in terms of services. I know a lot of the services that have been built, at least in most companies today, way too tightly bound. A lot of people just think, that like SOA and all this stuff is just magic fairy dust, and we get all this reusability. See, if I draw a square on a board and put like SBB or ABB in it, it's a building block now. Yay! Like, it doesn't work that way. You got to design the service to be reused. This is hard. A lot of folks are like, well, no, this is what I need, so I'm just going to give you what you. No, you got to decouple. It's challenging, and it's a different way of building applications. There's no getting around that. For some folks, this is like, ugh. I don't even want to touch that. But guys, these concepts aren't new. These are concepts we have used already for a long time. It's taking the style of application we have been building and turning the knobs to 11. And I know that's a little scary. Now, bear in mind, most of these are fractions. These are not 1.0 type things. These are not Gartner Magic Quadrant yet. And I know, I think it was the latest technology radar, they actually backbone up a bit in their circles and ThoughtWorks, because they were playing with a little bit and like, ooh, I don't like this particular pattern. I can't remember the specifics on what emerged, but I know they at least kind of have slowed down a little bit on its adoption. That's not to say other people are stopping their usage of it, but this is something to keep in mind. For some companies, it's like, well, if it's not 3.0 and it hasn't been on the cover of CIO magazine, we don't want to touch it. I mean, there's other companies where it's like, oh my God, it went 1.0, we need to get off it. So you're probably somewhere in between. This is a heavily evolving space. I know I've been making a joke out of it, but by the end of the week, there'll probably be a new entrant in the JavaScript MVC world. It's the nature of the beast. Again, that will contract at some point in the near future. But these JavaScript web applications, they are clearly the next step here for a lot of the stuff we're going to build. There is one book on the topic, O'Reilly the OWL book. This is Alex McCaw. This is actually, I think, a pretty good introduction to these concepts. I know you'll see some reviews say, "Oh my God, if you didn't write jQuery the library, you can't understand it. This is designed for libraries." I don't agree with that. I think this is very approachable. Even for folks who are like, "Wow, JavaScript, that's like Java, right?" That might not feel real good to read that book. But for most people that are experienced with JavaScript, this is going to be very approachable in my mind. Now, again, my goal here, guys, is to get you guys to start thinking about it. Where might this fit in your world? Where wouldn't this fit? Right, that's another part of this equation. No tool is a golden hammer, although a lot of things are looking like nails when you get a new one. Right, so just start thinking where this might fit. And guys, it isn't that hard. In less than 90 minutes, we talked through pretty much all of it. That's about all. In fact, I'm going to make my grad students write an app in this in a few weeks. The funny thing about being a teacher, I get to make it. Again, from my standpoint, guys, the important thing for us is to understand there's a lot of alternatives in this space. We owe it to ourselves. We owe it to our customers to understand what's going on here. Where does this fit? Where doesn't it fit? What shouldn't we be using them for? Again, it is early, so for a lot of us that might be a little uncomfortable, but that is the nature of this beast. Whew. Questions, comments, theories.
I'm going to jump in just because I'm such a lover of JavaScript.
Oh, I love JavaScript too.
You mentioned the Clojure script.
Clojure script, yeah.
And I've been doing things with GWT. Is there any?
I'm sorry.
Is there any decent thing out there that emits JavaScript so I don't have to write it?
Is there any decent thing that emits JavaScript? So I'll give you my snide comment about GWT. GWT doesn't emit JavaScript; it excretes it.
Yeah.
No argument. It's a subtle difference.
No argument.
They're probably, well, I mean, CoffeeScript to a certain extent, that's what it's doing, right? It's kicking out JavaScript out of, it's an alternative syntax. Some people would call it JavaScript.net. I did talk to Crockford about that. I ran him at a conference last year, and I asked him kind of his thoughts, and he was much more positive on CoffeeScript than I thought he would be. And we are starting to see some of those concepts find their way into JavaScript. There will be some kind of replacement for function. That word is just too damn long, and we use it too hard. So you're going to see something, I think, because in CoffeeScript is like dash arrow, and I think ECMAScript's going to use like equal arrow or something like that just to be a little different. But we're going to get some shorthand for that, and I think other ideas as well. Obviously, ClojureScript, is a compiler that takes Clojure and emits JavaScript out the back end.
Next door neighbor just mentioned something called Dart.
Yeah, Dart. That's the Google one, right?
The Google one.
Yeah. Dart feels a little too much like I'm trying to control everything, and at least the initial blitz I've seen on it seems awfully complicated to do Hello World. That never speaks well. Although Hello World in Java, anyone?
Yeah, exactly.
So, point. Other questions or comments? Yes, sir.
Where do you see like user authentication and security fitting into this?
Oh boy, where do I see security fitting in? I have to admit that security is not one of my areas of expertise. I asked Brian Sletton about this at one point because I'm like, hey, one of the complaints I hear is we have to do WS Death Star because we need authentication authorization. You already got that in the web, right? You've already got ways of doing that right now in the browser. So you don't need a new way of doing that. Now we can argue about whether it's a good or a bad way.
But just the notion that you just put the authentication or put the security in JavaScript, encrypted. It's just like,
yeah.
Never.
No, so inherently JavaScript is not a secure language. JavaScript cannot be, well, I should say cannot be. We can't fix the security problems in JavaScript without breaking the entirety of the web as we know it. And if you guys, and this is one of my pet peeves, what does deprecated mean in Java? Don't worry, we'll never remove it ever, right? Because we're so worried about, I shouldn't say we, Oracle now, then Sun, was so worried about some applet somebody wrote in 1998 still working today. Now, you think about both sides of this, because Microsoft loves to break stuff. That's, for better or worse, that is one of the things Microsoft will do. They rev something, they'll break it. Rails will do the same thing. They go from 2 to 3, guess what? They're going to break stuff, and they're going to tell you that. JavaScript, though, just think about it. You think COBOL is widely distributed? You think there's a lot of COBOL in the world? There's not even a candle next to JavaScript, right? So if you did something to JavaScript that broke JavaScript, good luck. I don't see how we can. The barn door is open. The horse is already 5 states over. Don't even bother trying to shut the door there. But it is certainly something to be aware of. Do you want to put, hey, here's all the customer data. It's in the browser. Oh, no. Please do not put social security numbers and credit card numbers, just because the browser now has a user cookie.
For user roles, it's a contract. It's a better user experience. You don't check that against the server. Yeah, but you can't code that way.
I agree. You have to understand that there's trade-offs. There's no getting around that aspect of it. So one, yes, sir.
Now, where do you kind of see these JavaScript web apps? It seems like a lot of those samples at the end were mobile stuff. Is it really mobile, lightweight? How enterprise even application would you go with them?
So where would this fit in? Sort of the enterprise? Is that kind of what you mean, or where is this used beyond like a mobile app?
Like how big of an application would you feel safe using this on, or is it really mainly mobile and tablet kind of thing?
How big should it be? Certainly the drivers right now tend to be very focused on the mobile space just because it is so much smaller and lighter weight, and it does fit that need very nicely. And the mobile browsers, because it's all pretty much mobile WebKit, so much easier for us to deal with. Did you want to chime in on that?
I was just going to give an example recently I'm working with.
Yeah.
The web application running for laptops. Guys, Jira. Ticketing system.
Oh, ticketing system. Sure. Sure.
Mission tracking system.
Sure.
And they're going full scale. They use that full.
Oh, I didn't know that. That's cool.
Live updating, so instead of having, every time you change an attribute of something, it has to redraw, right?
Right.
In fact, you change it right in line.
I'd love it if Rally would start adopting some of that. But I spend a lot of time waiting for Rally. Well, I shouldn't say I spend a lot of time. I spend a lot of time watching other people update Rally.
They've got actually kind of like Google has, where they've got a query language you can use to find tickets.
Sure.
And you start typing it, and they're starting to say, I think I've got this list here. Is there ability?
So it responds as you start typing in a filter criteria. It'll start eliminating down that list.
Yeah.
Oh, that's very cool. So, to be honest with you, I think part of why you're seeing it so much in the mobile space right now is because it's a very hot area and it's an easier place to do new things. Because we don't have sort of these established entrenched interests. And I think it's an easier sell to say, well, no, we want the server to be just JSON and just, services, and the client will handle more of this. But it feels inevitable that some of that is going to start migrating, into the stuff that we start working with day in and day out. I mean, Gmail uses these concepts. It's not using Backbone that I'm aware of, but similar type of concepts. You bring up your list, your mailbox. Behind the scenes, it's grabbing the content for those messages. So you type you tap on a message and you're like, wow, that pops up instantly. It's really quick. No, it's pushed that to you. And notice even within Gmail, if you go to create a filter, that's just a new page. It's going to refresh for that. Within the filter, it's not. But when you go to the filter, it is, because that's in the account page, and there's different things in the account setting. I think that's what they call it. So, other questions, comments?
Anything in Flash is going to be.
Anything that was in Flash, yes. I think we can all put a fork in Flash at this point. I'm actually amazed. I can't remember what it was, but I just ran into something. It was like a survey. Something I had done. I was like, hey, would you take, a minute to fill out a survey? I'm like, nah, okay, whatever. You need to install Flash. Click. Sorry, I'm not going to fill out your survey if I have to install Flash first. Well, yeah, and especially today where a shockingly large percentage of people's browsing is being done on devices that do not support Flash. I think building something new in Flash today is clearly not the answer. So. All right. Thank you, guys.